Okay, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about something you probably deal with every single day and never think twice about, your trash. But what if I told you that simple, everyday garbage is right at the heart of a massive geopolitical conflict, a conflict involving governors, premiers, and even presidents? This is the wild story of how a river of refuse flowing from Canada to the US became a central piece in a growing trade war.
So let's start with a number. 3.46 million tons. I mean, that's a number that's kind of hard to even wrap your head around, right? But that is the staggering amount of municipal solid waste. We're talking regular garbage from homes and businesses that the province of Ontario sent over to its neighbor, Michigan, in just 1 year. It's a truly massive amount, and it's the foundation of what they call the Great Lakes Waste Corridor.
So that begs the obvious question. Why? Why on earth is this happening? Why would one of the biggest economies in North America ship millions of tons of its own trash across an international border? Well, the answer is this fascinating mix of really simple economics, incredibly complex politics, and the very real threat of a trade war.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the huge money problem that's driving this whole thing. Then we'll get into the political fight, the Great Lakes Trash War. We'll see how policy itself became a weapon, which all leads to a massive showdown over the USMCA trade deal. But it's not all doom and gloom. We'll also explore Ontario's pretty clever escape plan and a really cool vision for the future of trade tech. So first up, the 3.5 million ton problem. And look, at the end of the day, this whole thing really boils down to one simple thing: money. It's not about a lack of space, it's about a huge difference in price that created a literal pipeline for trash. If you follow the money, you see exactly how we got here.
And the difference in price is, well, it's just staggering. For a long time, Michigan's state fee to dump trash in a landfill was only 36 cents a ton. 36 cents? That was the cheapest in the entire Midwest. Now, you compare that to the much higher costs back home in Ontario, and all of a sudden it makes a ton of financial sense to just load up a truck and drive it across the border. It's like a giant economic vacuum cleaner, just sucking that trash south.
And just how big of a deal is this? Well, Canadian waste, and it's almost all from Ontario, makes up more than 14% of all the trash that gets buried in Michigan's landfills. Just think about that for a second. Almost 1 out of every 7 truckloads of garbage getting buried in Michigan soil is from another country. That's a huge volume, and it's what turned this from a local problem into a serious international issue.
So, as you can probably guess, a situation like this doesn't stay a simple economic story for long. No, it quickly explodes into what people started calling the Great Lakes Trash War. And it put this whole waste corridor right in the crosshairs of some of North America's most powerful political leaders.
To really get what's going on, you have to look at the players on this chessboard. On one side, you've got Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She sees this flood of Canadian trash as a huge burden on her state's environment and infrastructure. Then you have Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who's facing his own landfill crisis and decides to frame the whole thing as a matter of national pride. And then, overseeing it all, you have President Donald Trump, who loves to use tariffs as a weapon, turning pretty much every trade issue into a potential fight.
And the tension, you could just feel it. I mean, listen to this quote from Premier Ford. He said this right after a big U.S. Supreme Court ruling went against some of President Trump's tariffs. It just shows you the confidence, maybe even the defiance, coming from the Canadian side. This wasn't just some quiet little disagreement over landfill fees anymore. This was a public, high-stakes political brawl. Which brings us to our next point. With the battle lines drawn, what do you do? Well, both sides start using the tools they have. Legislation. Policy itself becomes a weapon. It turns into this cross-border chess match, with each side making strategic moves to block the other and protect their own interests.
Okay, so Michigan's play is all about money. Governor Whitmer knew she couldn't legally just ban Canadian trash due to trade agreements. So she did the next best thing, make it super expensive for everybody. Her budget proposed a nearly 1,300% fee hike, from 36 cents to $5 a ton. And Ontario's countermove? Basically, if Michigan doesn't want their trash, they'll build their own place to put it, fast. Premier Ford pushed through a bill to cut the red tape and fast-track new landfill projects, even if it meant skipping some environmental reviews.
And this is the phrase that Premier Ford uses to sell his whole plan: waste sovereignty. It's a really smart political idea, right? It takes the issue and frames it not as a planning problem, but as a fight for self-reliance, a fight for national control. It's the political cover you need to justify pushing through controversial projects in the name of standing up to American pressure. And all of this, all these moves and countermoves, it's all building towards one single critical moment, the USMCA showdown. You see, the big trade deal that governs everything between the US, Mexico, and Canada has a mandatory review coming up, and that date is turning into a massive deadline that could change everything for this waste corridor.
And man, things really started to heat up in 2026. First, on February 20th, the Supreme Court basically took away one of the president's favorite tariff tools. So what did the administration do? They immediately pivoted and slapped on a new set of different tariffs. And all of this is happening with this giant deadline looming on the calendar, July 1st. That's the day all three countries have to sit down and review the entire trade agreement. The trash fight is now officially tangled up in the fate of all North American trade.
So why is everyone so focused on this review? Well, experts are calling it a high-stakes test because really, everything is on the table. This is the moment where the future of North American economic integration could completely change. The outcome could fix things and keep trade flowing, or it could throw up permanent walls. If the U.S. pushes for tougher rules, the days of just easily and cheaply trucking garbage across the border could be over for good.
But here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. With its back against the wall, facing a potential border shutdown and a landfill crisis, Ontario isn't just sitting there. It's planning an escape route. It's trying to pivot from this total trash crisis into the foundation for a whole new economy. And that escape route is built around this big idea, the circular bioeconomy. Now, it sounds complicated, but the concept is actually pretty simple. Instead of the old model of take, make, and then throw away, this is a system that tries to eliminate waste altogether. It's about creating a closed loop, where stuff we used to call garbage is seen as a valuable resource that can be transformed into brand new products, like something called biocarbon.
And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. Ontario is putting its money where its mouth is. They're investing $2.25 million into tech companies that can take stuff like low-value wood waste and use advanced processing to turn it into high-value biocarbon. The goal here is simple. Create a marketed home for stuff that used to be garbage, and by doing that, you cut the cord. You stop being so dependent on your neighbor's unpredictable politics.
Okay, so for our final piece here, let's talk about the future. Because in this new world of trade wars and intense border checks, the biggest risk for any company is just not being compliant. What if technology could offer a way to get it right every single time?
This is where a concept called the 95-wood Digital Refinery comes in. And just try to picture this for a second. Imagine a digital system that tracks waste from the second it's picked up. It uses AI to verify exactly what's in it, and then it automatically generates a perfect, unfakeable digital paper trail. It's basically a blueprint for creating flawless, easy-to-prove documentation that shows you're following all the complex trade rules.
I mean, a system like that would be an absolute game changer. They call it a sentient bridge, connecting that messy pile of waste to a pure, valuable final product with a perfect digital record. You could generate unchangeable paperwork right from the field. You'd basically eliminate the risk of getting stuck at the border or failing a tough environmental report. In this new world of intense scrutiny, having perfect, explainable compliance isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a critical tool for survival.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. We started this whole journey talking about, well, garbage. And we've ended up talking about AI-powered compliance and global trade politics. It kind of makes you wonder, right? In a world where politicians seem focused on building walls and starting trade wars, is it possible that technology, verifiable, transparent technology, could be the ultimate peacekeeper? Could it be the thing that builds the bridges back? It's definitely something worth thinking about.